We here at the Royal Armouries have recently received some questions through social media, and I'm going to attempt to answer them with some degree of accuracy. Well, I don't think it actually would. You see, when you're going out to joust, there are quite strict rules dictating what kind of armour you would be wearing, depending on what kind of joust you're competing in. So really, you're competing on a level playing field. The armour doesn't contribute that much. It's your skill as a rider, as a jouster, that really makes a difference. So you can't cheat by having better armour. So it's not really down to the breed as such, it's more down to the build of the horse itself. You don't want something too big, too stocky. You want something quite short, small in the back, something nimble and fast. That is the key. So actually a study was done fairly recently on this. A bunch of jousters got together and they developed a kind of ballistic target, if you like, that swung when it was hit with the lance. And from this, they figured out that the point of impact, you're getting around 200 to 250 joules of energy. Why is jousting not at the Olympics? Well, it's a difficult question because obviously jousting's amazing. Unfortunately, in reality, jousting is a very expensive sport, and there's no central organising body. So, unfortunately, the Olympic organisation doesn't really recognise it as an actual sport, as much as we'd love it to be involved. How do you start jousting? Well, that is kind of difficult. In the medieval period, you'd start your training at a very young age. These days, most people don't get that opportunity. So my top tips are start riding at a very young age. Number two, get very good at riding at a very young age. And then probably join some kind of medieval reenactment society and continue to ride and hopefully get in with the jousting crowd. You may be able to get involved with some jousts here and there, eventually start riding, training, and competing. It's not easy, but if you're dedicated and you really want to do it, I'm sure you'll find a way. Well, actually, as daft as it sounds, the armour today is no safer than it was back in the medieval period. The armour that they developed was so well designed and designed for this single purpose, for the tournament, it was as safe as could be. So we can't really improve on those designs without getting space age and really ruining the essence of the joust and the tournament itself. So it's not any safer. Well, a destrier, you have to remember that they're carrying the weight of a fully armoured knight. So with the knight on top, they're naturally going to be slower. And in a joust as well, you have to think that they don't get a run-up. They're going from a standing start. So in the lists, they're going to go about 20 to 25 miles an hour. In an open field with no obstructions, fairly even ground, they'd probably get to something around 30, 35 miles an hour. So the real shame is that we only have one, maybe two surviving medieval arming doublets. So we don't have much to go on. We assume that they were padded layers of linen, fabric, etc. But really, the modern day arming doublets are down to experimentation and guesswork. They have to be fairly well fitted to the body so that they don't obstruct the armour in any way, so that the armour still fits comfortably. The key is to get as close a fit between the body, the doublet and the armour as you possibly can, so that you can maintain the full range of motion and still be comfortable. In the joust itself, you'd only use the lance, because a joust is about lances. But in the field of battle, you would be looking at swords, maces, hammers, anything you can get your hands on, basically. The knightly weapon was, of course, the sword, though. That is the prime weapon of the medieval knight. This is a bit of an impossible question to answer. How long's a piece of string? Some knights like William Marshall really made a living and their reputation out of competing at as many tournaments as they possibly could. Others who were less inclined towards sports probably only competed when they had to, when etiquette dictated that they were present. Other than that, it depends on the individual. How much would a suit of quality armour cost you? Several £1,000s. They are very expensive if you want to have a functional, high quality harness of armour.